Brian Gregory, who's been the head coach since 2017. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. Mike's going to kick it off with a question to you first.
Coach, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. I got to say, I'm really excited to see all the three-point shooting and open offense you guys are going to do in Tampa this season with all the shooters and playmakers. How fun has it been? You've got a ton of new faces, and you've got some really interesting playmakers that I've got to be honest, should be a blast to coach.
Yeah, you guys sounded like you were in our staff meeting a couple weeks ago. But I think this is college basketball now. I think if you take a look around, just look at our league, which you're talking to all the coaches, a lot of question marks out there because of the transfer portal and because of, COVID last year where teams like us, on a 35-day pause in the middle of the season and different things like that, never really able to get back on track. But you hit the reset button, and for us, we were able to bring in some, really good players through that. We planned on with the 3 seniors graduating, as you go into it, you don't really have an idea about any of those guys coming back. And like so many across the country, to their credit, graduated in 4 years and were able to move on. But for us, obviously, it starts with Caleb, who, prior to our pause, had been the freshman of the week 3 times in our league. And as a freshman point guard, those 35 days that we were off and the 16 practices we had from the end of the pause to the start of the conference tournament, it's going to have a biggest effect on someone like that. And I thought you saw that, but he's had an unbelievable spring, a great summer. But the question marks are obviously the challenges that you face is bringing in a player like Javon Green, who's had an unbelievable career at George Mason, over 1,000 points, 500 rebounds, 300 assists, and 100 steals in a career is a pretty darn good career. But as he bumps up a level, is he still going to have that same type of impactful performance night in and night out? And you can see that from a couple of our guys who are kind of going up, who's had successful seasons, 1 season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons at other places. And then as Brooke mentioned, with Brian Matos, who had a great freshman year at New Mexico in limited games. Jalen McCrary at South Carolina, who was in the playing group and had some really good numbers. Corey Walker, a highly recruited recruit who went to Tennessee but was redshirted last year due to injury. So there's question marks out there, but we are a better shooting team. We're a better field team. Now we got to be able to defend and rebound and then kind of accelerate the process in terms of coming together.
Well, Coach, we're now going to open it up to the questions on our Zoom. It will be facilitated through Chuck Sullivan. So if you have a question, put it in the Zoom, and Chuck will call on you. Chuck, let's take our first question.
Thanks, Chris. And again, we'll use the raise hand feature, please, within Zoom to get in the queue for questions. We'll take the first one from Nathan Bond from the Daily Stampede, please.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Hey, Nathan.
Coach, your first year at USF, there was a lot of turnover already. What can you kind of take from year one at USF to now, this year where you're still bringing in a bunch of people? What can you learn from that first year and kind of make sure that guys gel quicker than maybe previously?
Well, I think maybe even a little bit more on year 2 than year 1. Year 1, it was unique. In this situation for us this year, we're not in a unique situation. There's a lot of teams out there that are bringing in 5 to 7 new guys and trying to get them acclimated to the system style. But at the same time, as a coach, being flexible enough to do things that highlight the positive attributes of each and every player and as a collective whole. As we went into year 2, obviously we brought in a big recruiting class of, I think, 5 or 6 players. So we had 6 new freshmen coming in. We had 2 guys that had sat out the year before. So we had 7, 8 new players heading into year 2 as well. And that group was able to come together pretty well, and it's just something that in terms of, obviously having good guys that want to be successful both individually and collectively help. Because if you're all pulling in the same direction, then you can get that done. But, the one thing that is unique is we're very young on paper, when you look at it, only one senior on the team, only one junior on the team. Everybody else is a freshman and sophomore, but only one player in Trey Moss hasn't played college basketball. So, we're kind of the epitome of what the new college basketball look is going to be as we continue to move forward.
If you have other questions for Coach Gregory, please, again, use the raise hand feature to get in the queue. You can go back to Nathan Bond for a follow-up, please.
Coach, through the summer, through the practice that you've started to have, has anyone kind of caught your eye that you liked what you saw on the game film that they had, but maybe they brought something else that to the table that maybe it didn't translate on film that you're excited about?
Well, I think the good news is probably, the two guys that have made the biggest jumps are guys that were in our program and with us all spring and summer in Caleb and in Jameer Chaplin. Those two guys are, remarkably better players, really used a year of playing to grow and to gain more experience, but then also to be able to take a step back and understand the things that they need to get better at to be more efficient, more consistent, and so forth. With the new guys coming in, we got guys that, the one thing we can do is we can shoot the ball better. With Javon Green and his ability, he's proven it through a 4-year career. Jake Boggs has proven it through 2 years at UNC Wilmington. Guys like DJ Patrick in 1 year of college, well over 45% from the three. So we can definitely do that. And we have really good versatility with guys that can play multiple positions. My biggest, concern heading into it or question mark out there is we did not defend very well last year at any position or collectively as a team, and the numbers prove that. Now, the numbers prove it significantly after our pause that we had where we went from 41% defensive field goal percentage, 30 from the three in our defensive field goal percentage, to after the pause when teams shot darn near 50% from the field and 43 from the three. That was a remarkable difference in our defense. But, as Mike said and Brooke mentioned earlier, our offense a lot is predicated on playing really good defense, forcing tough shots and dominating the defensive glass so we can get some easy baskets in transition. So that's going to be the challenge, and obviously that's a collective effort that we're working on a daily basis.
We'll take the next question from Will Turner from Bulls 24/7, please. Will, go right ahead.
Good morning, Coach. When we got a chance to see practice the other day, I was really surprised with Byron Matos' just sheer athleticism. He looked like a lot better athlete than maybe I might have given him credit for when I saw him on film. But just how important is he going to be, especially in your front court this season, just to, with what he's able to do?
Well, I think he's important. Obviously with Russell coming back and knowing the system and so forth, there's situations where he's ahead of Byron with that. But Byron is a player that plays extremely hard, very physical. Both those guys, they beat the crap out of each other every day, which is good, and they're not afraid to do it. But with Byron's, developing offensive stuff, I think he's a guy that's got a huge upside for us. With limited practice time and limited games last year, he did a good job on the glass at New Mexico. Playing 20 minutes a game, was a 6-5 guy. So he's someone that, we're definitely counting on. And when you add the ability to play smaller with Jalen McCrary and Sam and Boggs and so forth and Corey Walker, it gives us a really good mix inside and a lot of different tools that we can use.
We'll go next to Russ Wood, please, from Bulls Insider. Let's go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Coach. After working with the kids this summer, can you tell us how much they like competing against each other and working together?
Yeah, I think it's been good. I think we got to, obviously it's, the buzzword culture and all those different things. You got to work on that every single day. It's the biggest thing now in this day and age in terms of just in general, and then when you add the new dynamics of multiple new guys that have played at other places coming into your program, I think we got a group that really likes each other, likes being around each other, likes practice. Practices have been fun and good and hard and tough and competitive. The next step is from liking and respecting each other to being really, really connected. And I think that's still a work in progress for us. But I think you see, bits and pieces of it, flashes of it, and now we need to become very, very consistent in it. And usually, Russ, as you know, and we've talked about it at length, that usually shows up, when the challenges and adversity hit during the season, because it's not if, it's when, because it's going to happen. You can't play in this league and not have to be resilient, because you can play really well, as we did early in the conference schedule last year, and lose a 1-point game at Memphis, losing overtime after a couple missed free throws in the Wichita State game. You got to be able to bounce back from that stuff, and that's where having a team that's connected and resilient and committed to each other in the overall process, that's where that becomes evident. It reveals it during those challenging times, and we got to, talk about it right now, understand it's going to happen, and be ready to attack it when it does.
And Coach, are you guys going back to suits and ties, or are you going to wear what you wore last year?
I don't know. We've talked about it. I mean, obviously, I would prefer a more professional look, but that's I'm not sure if it's going to be blanket across college basketball one way or the other, or if it's going to be, pick and choose what you want to do. So I'm good with it either way. Obviously, I think the professional look is a little sharper and so forth, but I got other things to worry about other than what I'm going to wear during the game.
Head coach Brian Gregory, whether we're in a polo or a full suit and tie, we're looking forward to watching you play this year.
Thank you.
Well, that was some fun. Hey, listen, it's the only sport where you're out there in a suit and tie. I mean, you don't see in football fields they're running down there with, the button-ups.
I've heard from so many coaches that they're going casual this year, and it makes me a little sad. Because basketball, right, we're a sport, we got to dress up, like show out, all right? You can go casual in practice. Bring it for the games, y'all. Come on.
I feel like Mike disagrees.
I like the polo, but what I'm disappointed in is the ghost of the polo is that we're not going to see the Kelvin Sampson throw the jacket down on the ground in aggressive anger. When you're wearing a polo, he's going to have to find a towel or something. But I understand the polo, but when Coach Gregory looks sharp, look good, play good.
The hard-hitting questions around here on American Athletic Conference Media Days. Let's get back to the court for Caleb Murphy. For those that didn't get a chance to really watch him break out last year, what do you see out of him?
Well, Caleb Murphy is the most explosive player in the Brian Gregory South Florida era. He's one of the best guards in the American Conference at getting downhill. What I mean by that is whether it's in an ISO or pick and roll scenario, he's crafty enough and plays angles well enough to where his strength and athleticism allows him to get to the rim pretty easily. And he averaged just over 8 points a game, 3 assists. And he is one of the best guards in the American Conference coming into this season. He was on the all-freshman team last season. The thing about where I'm excited to see year 2 for Caleb Murphy is that what we've seen, and I think, Brooke, you can attest to this as well, Coach Gregory is a stickler for defense, but he gives his guards a lot of freedom on the offensive end. So if Caleb Murphy can tighten up some of his shot selection and maybe limit his turnovers, he cuts those turnovers in half, I mean, that's an all-conference type talent they have in Tampa.
And I think that's what you learn coming from your freshman year to your sophomore and junior year. It's not just high school where you can take 15, 20 shots a game. You have to really focus in on what is the best shot for my team, not for myself. But I love what you had to say about Caleb Murphy. I mean, his lower body strength, he seeks out contact. Like, he loves to go in the lane, create for himself. Also, maybe the best hair in the league. It's going to be up for debate this year.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, but he brings it.
But you were telling us, I mean, when you look at all the players from around the conference, he's one of the breakout stars for this next season.
Well, because he's going to have to be for South Florida to be successful. And we talked about his scoring ability. But if you look at some of these other guys, Jalen Forbes for Tulane, Brooke mentioned him earlier. He is probably the most underappreciated scorer in the American Conference. He had 2 games of 30 points last season. Crafty, doesn't necessarily love contact, but finishes. He's a 3-level scorer. And then Damian Dunn last season was one of the bright spots for Temple. In that offense, if there's more focus on Damian Dunn, I'd like to see him be more aggressive, particularly Temple runs a lot of pick-and-roll action in the half court. More Damian Dunn in the pick and roll equals more success for the Temple Owls.
Well, Caleb Murphy is joining us now, and let's toss it over to Chuck, who has our first question via Zoom. Caleb, thanks so much for joining us. Chuck, take it away.
For sure.
Thanks, Chris. And again, please use the raise hand feature to get in the queue for questions for Caleb. We can start with Russ Wood, please, from Bulls Insider. Russ, if you have a question, just unmute yourself and fire away. All right, stand by for that. Again, please use the raise hand feature to get in the queue for questions for Caleb. And we'll start with Will Turner from Bulls 24/7, please.
Caleb, appreciate you doing this, man. When you look at this team and, going from year 1 to year 2 and just how many newcomers you guys have, what's kind of been for you the biggest adjustment that you've had to make over the summer?
I'll say just really getting to know my teammates for on and off the court, trying to learn everybody's tendencies and what everybody likes to do. And, yeah, that's really it, really. But it's been an easy adjustment, though.
Hey, Caleb, I have a question for you. I mean, with so many new faces, what has it been like to finally have normal practices, a chance to get to know these guys versus how different it was this time a year ago?
It's real different. I kind of feel like a freshman all over again because, I didn't get to experience a lot of the normal college stuff last year due to COVID. So it's cool to actually get a real college experience and have real practices and real games and stuff. So it's definitely been cool.
Caleb, I know you have to be so excited to play in front of fans this year and to have that experience, but you now are the number 1 guy. You're the number 1 scoring option for the Bulls. So how does that feel to kind of have that pressure on your shoulders and to be able to respond?
No pressure because, I'm the point guard too. So, my focus is not only on scoring, it's trying to create for my teammates and stuff and get us into what we need to run on offense and be the vocal leader, just be a leader on and off the court. So that's my focus, is being a leader.
Hey, Caleb, I'd like to analytically break down your pick and roll efficiency, but I'm going to take it off the court here, and I need some tips. I've got about 363 followers on Instagram. You've got 94,000. You got any good tips for me to up those numbers a little bit?
Really? I don't know. No.
Well, can you tell me?
Really.
Yeah. You took one look at me like, there's no shot. I can't tell you. I do have a question for you. What's the Good Times clothing brand? Is that part of some of the name, image, and likeness opportunities that you've been getting?
Nah, this is something outside of that. This is something me and my cousin Travis, we've been for years now. We've been trying to come up with something to drop. We've been looking forward to dropping the clothing line, shirts, shorts, socks, all that. So we finally made an effort to attempt to drop. So
maybe that's my key to increasing my Instagram followers, is getting some Good Times gear, huh?
For sure.
I thought Mike was going to ask for hair tips from you, Caleb. But my final question for you is, when you ended your freshman year, where did you want to make the biggest amount of growth before second year?
Definitely my jump shot outside the 3 and just like my decision making and defense. Coming off the pick and rolls. It's a little different from high school because, when I was coming off the screen and rolls in high school, it was like I always get to the basket and score when I wanted to. But, you know, it's a little harder to score on defense. You know, the defense is set. It's a lot of help, so you kind of got to create for other teammates and stuff. So.
Caleb Murphy, we're looking forward to watching you play this year. Thanks so much for joining us.
For sure.